Good evening, Mr. Coveney. How are you?
Yes, very well indeed. Thanks, Robbie. Very well. Nice to talk with you. Thank you, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, it's absolutely lovely to see you. Always a pleasure, Andrew. Just for those who aren't aware of yourself, so I've got Andrew Coveney with me this evening on Band of Runners. Andrew is a member of the 100 Marathon Club UK. Has run, I believe, we'll talk about this, over 300 marathons, something like that. In fact, a marathon, I think, for every day of the year, 365 is the latest total. And also, yeah, does some other interesting things in running and outside. So it's good to have you, Andrew. And I suppose to start with, inevitable question, what do you like about running?
I think it's. I was funny enough. I was thinking about this today, and it's the lifestyle. I think it's. It's. I guess the same for most of us. It's the friendships. It's the memories and the amazing things that happen when you least expect them. So it's all that stuff together, and it's. I find it, compelling and almost addictive, may I say.
So plenty of us in the addictive camp.
Yeah, it's I've always regarded as a social club with a bit of running. Yeah,
that's interesting. Not totally unique in the sense that there's a few addicts around, but the most interesting thing about what you just said, I think, was the use of the term lifestyle. So it's become a fundamental part of your life, has it?
Yes. That's right, and that's everything really. It's I guess we all get used to signing up to events and arriving, but it's always great, isn't it? Because you go there and inevitably you see people you haven't seen for ages. You might get to talk to people that you have had a few words before, but not that much, and also you see some very inspiring things. Which, funny enough, happened to me last Friday when one of the twins, the guys from I think they're from Blackpool, when one of them was there, and he was walking around with a lady who looked to me like couldn't see, and that chap is like a 3-hour marathon runner. He was around there in over 8 hours, and I thought, there's some very, very special people in the running community, and they're very inspiring. So yeah, like I said, it's like I think it's a lifestyle thing. It's a social club, and you meet some very nice people who otherwise you'd never meet. So good.
That's a really amazing story, and probably a really good, clear as a bell example of the paying it forward thing that I think only when it became part of my lifestyle did I recognize that it's a whole community. It's like being in a sort of weird village where people, it doesn't quite work like this, but it's like, I'll give you a hen if you kind of let me stay the night in your barn. I'm gonna go with the extended metaphor, but like even yourself, you have, and I promise it wasn't a bribe to get on the show, but you've offered to put me up. You've offered to give me a lift, with to places and stuff, and it's that you encapsulate that as much as anybody. So
and people, it's amazing, isn't it? Amongst the running community, people tend to help each other. I think you've mentioned it on your show before, and it's just demonstrating it again. Really, people help each other a lot in this community. And I think a very unselfish group of people who get on very well. So, and I think that's what. I mean, just the thing I would say is I don't think I've ever got up in the morning thinking, "Oh, great news! I'm going to go and run a marathon." I don't think I've ever felt that way. And it's more like, oh God, do I really have to do this? And you've got to get yourself ready and all faffing around and whatever. And even when you get to the car park, we think, oh goodness, no, what am I doing here? And so many times, once you get going, as you well know, things all of a sudden you think, oh, I'm actually really enjoying this. And but when was the last time I thought to myself, oh, fantastic news, I'm getting up running a marathon today or whatever? I don't think there's ever been. Don't think so.
No,
Think so.
no, that's fascinating. But it's like, it's only when you've said it, I think that actually that's me too sometimes. To the point where actually sometimes I think a lot of people have this. You get a bit anxious about going to run, or you think, oh God, but I'd love a lay-in. Getting up at 5, really? Why? To go and run 26.2 miles.
That's right.
But and it's not just about this, but then you think, oh well, I'm gonna see Andrew there, and Vanessa and Tim and Pete and Rachel. It's just like, and you see it as the adventure and the, like you say, the social club, don't you? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was on Friday. I only went on Friday because I couldn't run over the weekend because I had other things I had to do. And I hadn't spoken to Jaji for a long time, and I saw him there, and we just started chatting. And I said, don't you remember? I said, when I rocked up in a 7 marathons in 7 days t-shirt, and you asked me about it, and I said, first of all, I explained to you immediately that I got this shirt when I did Abu Dhabi Marathon. The other guys are coming from Melbourne to do it, and I was just there. I was just the wannabe. I just did the one, and but he subsequently went on to do 7 marathons in 7 days, and we were just talking about that. I said, it's just really special to have done that, and we had a good chat about a variety of things. He was telling me how he did sub 4 in the London Marathon, and how he sort of achieved that. And he's a lovely fellow, as you know, and it's very, very nice to spend some time with him. If we hadn't been out there knocking around near the Thames, we wouldn't have seen each other that day, would we? So there's an example, another example of what a nice lifestyle it is.
And I think also this is a really good example, if you don't mind me saying. I think you're a very humble individual. I think a lot of runners are, but what draws me almost to you and you're getting your story out there is because you spend so much time bigging up other people. And I only really got this when I started speaking to you more, after you personally came up and almost gave me a sort of like a mini award ceremony type speech and a firm shake of the hand after I think it was after I did the canal race last year. But you find the time, whatever it is, to promote what other people do. And even on this show, which is about Andrew Coveney, you're talking about Jagjeet Singh, who we also, we know is a fantastic runner, and so many. But we want to fill this time with a bit of bigging up yourself. But this is kind of where you are now, and kind of we're talking about present day. When and where did you kind of do that first marathon that started all that?
I did the first marathon in 2004, and it was purely, I think what happened, I was sitting at my desk at work, and I'm pretty sure we got just a flyer through, or a letter from MenCap, and it basically said, if you can raise some money, you can, we got a place for you in the London Marathon. And back in those days, it was, if you had, a corporate role, which I did at that stage, the rules were a bit different back then, and it was much easier for companies to have a little kitty to one side for things like charitable donations and other things. And so, depending on what your role was, it was much easier back then. If you knew a few people in business, you could easily make a few calls, and before you know what, you might get 15 companies offering you a couple of £100 or something. Before you know what, out of the blue, you've got 3,000 quid or whatever it may be. Right. And of course, there's a world away from. First of all, nowadays it's a bit different, and also if you don't have those contacts, literally you're looking at like Rhino Man, isn't it? He's collecting 50p a go, and it's much harder to collect the money. But to answer your question, I'm pretty sure that's how it all I've done quite a bit of running over a few years. I did some running with Hash House Harriers a few years ago, many years ago actually, which I enjoyed very much, and just bits and bobs all over the place, but never to marathon distance. And so I think that's what got me to the London Marathon for MenCap, and maybe it was the year of my 40th birthday, so maybe it was some sort of midlife crisis or something.
Yeah.
Before you know what, I can't exactly remember what. I think I got the train over. I don't even remember how I got over there, but before you know what, I was out there, you know, trying to get back to Pall Mall or wherever his finish is, and that's when my journey started. And
So you've got to remember
you
your
know,
first. You remember all the details of your first, all of
you
the
do. I mean,
pain,
well, I mean, you know, guess what? I mean, you know, I remember the training was awful. I remember how I remember even, you know, running sort of 15 miles was. I can't remember. I mean, I think
You
at the time I was
trained. You trained for a marathon.
I did. And I can't remember now, but I reckon I was not far off of 16 stone. I was probably 15 and a half, 15, something like that. But it's the usual story, isn't it? You know, you got some sort of desk job and you know, if you don't do anything over a period of time, you just, you know, like anyone, you just get out of shape. You know, you just do. And so
Funnily enough, I'm very familiar with that story.
Yeah.
I assure you my PB is a little better than 16 stone, but
well, all I remember is being in the. I thought the distance running I felt was, you know, really hard and a different world to me. I remember on the day, I can just about remember it. You know, went off way too fast because obviously, you know, it's a tremendous support and all the things you know about with all the bands and everything, and you know, you get tempted to go way too quick. And what I also remember is first ending up in the back of a London bus because my hip sort of seized up. So some guy massaged me for, I don't know, about half an hour or something, and he kicked me out of the bus, and I can't remember, I think I went over the line in just over 6 hours. And
yeah.
And of course the usual. I thought, oh, you know, I really felt like I've been put through the mincer. I was so slow that my sister and my dad, they either went home or couldn't find me or something. So the whole thing
after
was
you've
a bit
raised
of a
all that
mess.
money for Mink.
I know.
Harsh.
So really it was the usual really. And but I remember thinking, wow, you know, the crowd's amazing. I thought, well, I guess you know, that's that. I think what I remember after that is about 3 years after, 2007, something like that. We moved, and that allowed me to, in the interim period, I was doing a bit of running with some friends of mine at work on, I think we used to do Tuesdays and Thursdays or something, just knocking around 5K or something. And then 2007 we moved, and I remember that my commuting became a bus from Dulwich down to Brixton, and then tube to Oxford Circus, and then up on the Bakerloo to Marylebone, train to Little Chalfont, jump off the train, 2 mile run to work, and then the same in reverse. So for quite a few years, I was basically doing, you know, 4 miles a day, just purely because I think the marathon experience had sort of I put a seed in my head that that rather than doing absolutely nothing at all physically for the next sort of 20 years, maybe it's a good idea to just do a little bit now and again.
Yeah, that's worked out well, hasn't it? A little bit now and again.
and as many people will I'm sure say, very similar. You know, I'm jumping a couple of stages, but let's just say that at some stage in the future, I met Travis Wilcox. But how many people say that?
Yeah, well, quite a few. You'd be surprised. I happen to know someone. But were you never tempted to run the whole way? It sounded like you had about 5 modes of transport changes there. Do you not just? Surely you've got this impatience. I mean,
it's only about I would say, give or take, that's 25 miles each way. So you know, maybe there's something in that for you, Robbie.
No, I think that's something for you to do. You're the multi-day king, aren't you?
So no, it was sort of it sort of settled down a bit with that sort of commuter run thing, and then I can't remember now. I remember who can't quite remember. Oh yes, I do remember now. Yeah, a chap I knew from is a business contact, an Australian chap, and he was going to do Paris in 2011, and I hadn't run a marathon then for 7 years, and he just said, oh, you know, do you fancy coming over and having a go? And I thought, yeah, okay. And I can't remember whether I trained for that. I don't think I did. I thought, well, I'm doing about 25 miles a week, so I'll just have a go at that. So, yeah. And then that sort of, for some, I can't even explain why, but that sort of got me back into marathons. I did a bit better. I really enjoyed Paris. It was a lovely event, very, very nice indeed. The time was a bit better, and that sort of, I don't
And
know
have you
why.
lost weight? I've got to ask, Andrew, did you lose weight doing 2 miles a day?
Do you know, I can't. I think I might have lost a little bit. Definitely, I was in better shape because, you know, I'd gone from literally, you know, nothing for years to running a marathon, and then more to sort of a gradual thing, like, you know. I can't even remember now whether I used to run at the weekend. I think I might have done, actually. I think maybe I run a little bit every day, but only sort of 4 or 5 miles or something. But yeah, I do think I was in better shape. But still, I do recall I remember struggling a bit with the heat, actually, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I think the heat, maybe in Paris in the second half, was a bit unpleasant. And I think maybe my shoes were, you know, perhaps not the right ones. But it felt a bit better. And I don't really know why, but that's sort of, I thought, well, maybe I'll do, I don't know, two or three of these a year or something. And I think I did. I think I kept on doing a bit of running, nothing too sort of strenuous, but, you know, a bit of this, bit of that. And then I sort of got into, you know, two, 3, 4 a year or something. And I did that for a few years, probably for maybe 3 or 4 years. Can't quite remember, but yeah, just sort of coming in and out of it. But really just sort of every day doing a bit of running, and I think that probably did make me a little bit fitter, albeit not me for marathon distance, but maybe just overall, just perhaps a little bit, maybe lost a bit of weight, maybe just a little bit better at running, I don't know. But you know, that's kind of it's sort of a funny journey, really. I never really had any plans whatsoever. I sort of stumbled into things, really.
It did seem to light a bit of a spark, if I can call it that, when you had done that Paris marathon, and then you, like you say, and I have to reference it feels eerily close to my own model, except your average time is a bit faster, but just go with it. It's a case that my first one was just a case of it's charity thing. I wanted to prove that I could do it. And and then I also had 6 years before I ever did one again, because I thought, no, you know, I almost died doing that. You don't go and do another one. That's it. Now I'll go and do other things. But but then it was like, I don't know if you were the same. I was using them to test my fitness. It was like one every season almost. And your times really started coming down, and it looks like, and you may have just stumbled into it, but you were trying to get below the
definitely my Australian friend, the chap we did Paris with, at the time he lived in East Sheen, and certainly Australian guys, I mean, you know, they're all pretty sporty. I think, yeah, sport's a big thing in Australia. He's pretty competitive, but he was a way better runner than me. He was, you know, working hard to get faster, but you know, he could pretty much do, you know, 3:15, 3:20 out of the box, and you know, significantly better than I was or am. And I think with that in mind, I went through a period when, you know, it was a big thing for a period of time, perhaps for 2 or 3 years. It was a big thing to always aiming on the next one to get faster. So it's almost like, you know, with the view to, you know, in due course someday to try and break 4 hours. So and I kind of dragged on the coattails of. In fact, I keep saying his name's Michael, and a very nice chap. And we even though we were not comparable at all as runners, we compared notes quite a lot and kind of egged each other on with regard to, you know, training runs we've done, and it generally felt like we were sort of encouraging each other, really, albeit almost like an arm's length basis, because, you know, as runners there were just acres between us, and it was not helpful for me to go on a training with Michael, because he needed someone quicker to run with. And by the way, I digress, but his pinnacle of his running, I think it was 2012. He'd been pushing hard to break 3, and he'd had all sorts of stuff between 3 and 3:15. And he went to Frankfurt, charged over the line, thought he just missed it again, and the printout came out, and he got 2:59:58.
Oh, nicely done. I said we were going to talk about you, but that's a nifty little story. So
do you think that would make you happy if you're a runner?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, and I'm not even that, you know, fetishizing over times, but you also in your times have to mention you've claimed the sub-4 crown at one point, haven't you, as well? At the 100 Club AGM marathon, actually.
Correct.
So, being around all those figures who you spend so much time talking about how inspiring they are, and yeah, you did something pretty amazing that day, because that's something I've not ever got close to. Not on my benchmark for that, but phenomenal, really, considering as well the volume that you do. Something I've noticed as well, draw parallels, really similar to my own journey, because before I met a chap called Travis Wilcox, by total accident, I did similar thing. I actually was using it when I was doing a fewer year, and family used to sort of joke, you go on holiday all the time. It was like, I'd go to Rome to do the marathon, go to Paris, do their marathon, Munich, do their marathon. It's like, well, why not? It shouldn't just be a chore running around, I'm going to say a car park, not to cause any offense, or, just up and down or something. Even though love that, but you had all these different countries. You went to Malta, Abu Dhabi, and different towns as well, to say that, in the UK. And I know now you're back on the sort of enjoyment of road marathons, but that
very much so,
feel, is that something that you liked early on, or is it because you didn't know anything different at that point?
Yeah, I didn't. In so many ways, I didn't know anything different. And also, as I say, Robbie, in that particular part of the journey, I can't even remember why, but the getting the best time was an important thing at that time. And so therefore it's the usual things of training and adding up the numbers, all the things about, so yeah, I mean, and the road ones, I always enjoyed, particularly the foreign marathons, and it was always nice to to go to new places and experience that. But in particular now, I'm really enjoying presently. I mean, I'm trying to get roads at the moment. That's my focus, because what I'd like to do, I'd really be it'd be great feeling if I could manage to get 100 road marathons. So I already have over 100 ultra and trail, and so yeah, it would be nice to get that, and we'll see. But in particular with those roads, Makoto and I travel to these places together at the weekend, and I'm massively enjoying it, because really it's just, you've got 4.5, 5 hours on your feet running, and then the rest of the weekend you can go to a nice restaurant or go and have a couple of drinks, and it really feels like a little holiday. And I'm really enjoying that sort of, it's something we can do together, and I'm really enjoying that very much. Very, very enjoyable. That's been a real icing on the cake for me, that little piece. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, and Makoto's obviously your partner, and occasionally as well you can go away with some of the guys and gals from the club, right? So
yes,
I'm hoping you'll be there, but I'll be doing Rome, subject to a passport, in March this year myself.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to it, because of reasons I haven't been on any sort of holiday for ages, and I think I might get quite into that.
Yeah. Well, Makoto and I went to Nice in November with Peter Morris and Martin Bush and Costas.
Oh, brilliant.
And we had an absolutely wonderful time there in all regards, and certainly the days before the event, Martin, Peter and Costas, we just had an absolutely great time. And I digress, but I'm fascinated, and also I admire greatly those members of 100 Marathon Club who literally been members for 20, 30 plus years, and I think to pause and to look at their journey over the period when it just wasn't possible to do triples and quads and 10 in 10. I mean, these were picked off one by one, all over the place, and the length of time they've been doing it. It's always good fun to spend time with these guys. And as I say, Nice Cam was an example of that. But I've had other examples as well with Brian Mills, and there are a number of others where they're fellow members of 100 Marathon Club, but their journeys have been, over many, many more years. And for example, when we had the 100 Marathon Club AGM, I thought it was apt. I was just enthralled with that book that was being passed around, all those different pictures.
Oh yeah.
absolutely amazing. I just couldn't get enough of that book, because it's like, you know, the level of it's, you know, for someone that, like a newbie like myself, it's literally just fascinating to see all these people, and Steve Edwards, when it was, you know, it's just, you look at it, you think this is just incredible stuff. I'm absolutely loving this. So
yeah, it's the history of the little village that we all live in, isn't it?
it just you know, it's just so much of this stuff. And like I said right at the beginning, it's that combo of you know, it's a social club with a bit of running, and it's the lifestyle thing, and it's the, you know, the list goes on and on, doesn't it? I mean, I could tell you stories about, you know, Danny Kaye, you know, lapping me when he was 74.
Yeah, Danny, there's a reason they call him the legend,
and he always does so with a smile, as you know. Yeah.
The analogy I like to use for it, what you've just described, just trying to frame it, is I think when other people, and this is why people who perhaps don't get into some of the madness and don't live that lifestyle, as you called it early on, which nails it, it's like if they picked up a comic book with no context, they wouldn't be able to imagine what happens between all the frames, you know, where the little white divider bits are.
Yeah.
They just see some of the pictures, which are all the medal selfies that go on social media and hang on the walls, or little certificates, little times on Strava. It's all the stuff that happens out there on the adventure, those weekends away that you talked about, what goes on tour stays on tour, obviously. But and I'm so with you. So it makes me excited just hearing you talk about it, to be honest, because I'm thinking of the next adventure that I or we may go on.
Well, he's Pete Elliott, Pete and Mylene. We went to Comrades in 2018, and we had a wonderful time there. They introduced me to some of their South African friends who were massively hospitable. We stayed at their house. It was just tremendous. And one thing that happened there, which was quite remarkable, is we were about to start. We were in Pietermaritzburg, about to run down to Durban. And it was in the middle of it was dark, of course, and that cock noise was about to blast off, and you were away. And I was feeling pretty apprehensive. It's a sort of quite a big step up, actually. And I was just sitting there thinking, well, you know, you're here now, so give it your best shot. And then just out of the blue, someone said, "Oh, hi, Andrew." I thought, who might that be? And I looked to my right. It was Deborah Bourne, and she said, "Oh, how you feeling?" I said, "Well, I'm actually pretty nervy. You know, there's these time cut-offs and whatever." So she said, "Look, do yourself a favour." She said, "Number one, as you're running out of Pietermaritzburg, there's a lot of disused traffic lights with curbstones. Whatever you do, keep your eye open for those, because it's so easy to catch your foot. You'll be over, and your race will be over right there and then." She said, "The other thing to do is, once you get out on the road, whatever you do, be careful of the cat's eyes. They're all made out of aluminium. And once again, it's so easy to catch your foot and you're over." And I said, and we just had a little chat and we were on our way. And Bob's your uncle. We started off, her words were ringing in my ear. And within about 3 minutes, there's the curbstone. And I just avoided that. I thought,
oh, you didn't? I thought that you were going to face plant. Oh, well.
No. I just,
well done, Deborah.
And on that little journey, I did see more than one runner who was who'd obviously fallen over and on those cat's eyes. And once again, it's back to my original theme of people in this community do look after each other. And I think that's why I think you end up doing loads and loads of marathons, because you think actually it's a good community.
And similarly, people volunteer and people clip cards and people help people get to races. People help people who perhaps are visually impaired get around marathons, as you said, the twins do regularly. And then they go and boast about their story and pay it forward. Or you turn up in the middle of the night and help someone run along the canal. I've had people offer to pace me, and they actually end up wrecking the course more than I do. And there's this incredible duty of sort of care and support that goes on, and it's just, again, it makes me excited for the next adventure and almost a chance to give that to others. It's just such a generous community. in every way, and nobody ever expects anything in return. It's just baffling to me, because coming from a corporate background myself, everything has always been quite transactional.
And the other thing which maybe we've discussed before, but I think it's really attractive about the running community is that people come from all different places, all different parts of the country, all different, some of them retired, different jobs, whatever, and but they all get together and enjoy each other's company without any issue whatsoever. It doesn't really matter where you come from, that's an irrelevance. What it is, I think it's a very, very pure sport, and it's not tainted. And I think that's a really powerful mix. To me, it offers something for everybody. Very, very, I know it's an overused word presently, this word inclusive. I think that the running community is a great example of that, because you've got all sorts of people out there. Some of them are doing a couple of laps, others are doing 40 miles, but without any exception, those people get on well together, and full well they're rooting for each other, and that's a good thing.
That's a really nice way of putting it. And it's a slight change of topic, because you're not a very braggy individual. I just want to bring up something that, when poring over your various achievements, I find truly outstanding. In 2020, which was in the midst of, let's call it what it was, a bit of a shit show. You managed to do 20 in 2020, which was not only a couple of laps or whatever, 4 laps or 8 laps. You chose to do, I think it's 10 laps of that course, 50 kilometers, or virtually 10 laps, sorry, 9 3/4 or whatever it works out. Basically 50 kilometers, 20 days in a row. And I kind of just pay homage to that. But I think people would probably benefit from knowing what is it that keeps you going, doing something that must have been truly quite hard, particularly with what you said earlier about turning up in the car park and thinking, oh blimey, not again.
Yeah, funny enough, I was talking to Tiago just before that event, and I said to him, I think it was on the night before, I said to him, I actually don't really know what I'm going to do. Maybe I might stick to marathon, or I thought it'll either be marathon or 50k. I thought it'd be one of those. I actually, even on the day when I turned up, I didn't really know, and I got out there and I thought, I tell you what, you're here for 20 days, so you might as well go for the 50. And I remember on the first day, certainly after a couple of miles into the event, I did feel very, very intimidated. You get to that stage where you're a bit rusty and you feel a bit sort of feels like an old bag of spanners or something. And I thought, you know what, chum, you're not feeling exactly great after 2 miles. And so how do you feel about whatever it is, you only got 621 miles to go. So it was all a bit crazy. But it's like any runner, you've got to put that to one side and go back to that famous formula of 1 foot in front of the other, which is always a good place to start. I remember, I think it was after day 3 or 4, I had something wrong with me. I don't actually know what it was, but my heart was racing quite rapidly up to 180, 190 or whatever, and I didn't really know what was wrong with me. And Ruth said to me, I said to her, do you have any idea what's wrong with me? She said, well, you just got some sort of fever or something. She said, you should be okay, so just stick at it. And I remember Rachel said to me, would it be better if we take your number away rather than you having to quit? And I said, I'm okay. If I just take it easy, I should be all right. I think, at one stage, Travis was keen to make me, or wanted me to go back to the marathon, but I managed to make to the cutoffs okay. 2 or 3 days were quite ropey. I think it might have been 3, 4, and 5, well over 7 hours. And that was my best effort. Just to get to the cutoff was, for some reason, I just wasn't feeling very well.
But were you actually unwell then, as in like you had a bit of a I
Yeah,
don't know,
the
lurgy or
heart
something.
rate was, I think it was, just in particular, heart rate was racing away for some reason or another. And it just made me feel just difficult to actually, to actually, my biggest challenge for those 2 or 3 days was actually to make the cutoff. And oftentimes, I think I only made it by just that whole journey. It was quite stressful to know, because I digress, but just go back to Orta the year before when I was trying to get,
which is in Italy, isn't it? 10 marathons
right,
in Italy.
and, so what happened there? I had two situations actually. I think this actually was, so in Orta the previous year, I was going well on the 10 50k and 10 50ks in 10 days. I think on day 6, I think it was raining hard, and I went through a puddle and I rolled my foot, and in a lot of pain. Had to go to the hospital. It wasn't broken, and I ended up doing, I think the next day, I think I did a marathon. I used crutches for a while, but they didn't work, so I got rid of those and just walked it. And then the day after, I did 50k that messed it up again, and then I did the last 2. I walked it again, and so I ended up sort of walking away from Orta without the 10 50ks. I ended up with whatever it was, 7 50ks and 3 very, very slow marathons.
And a very sore foot, it sounds like, because people must think, well, what are you doing hobbling around on crutches? But I've seen it. I've seen people do this.
I think what it is, all of us, us marathon runners, as we're all stubborn. We are, aren't we? That's part of us. And you're so used to telling yourself, stop whinging. There's a solution somewhere. Just focus on the solution. It's like, we know you're struggling. We know that. So what's the solution? And Bob's your uncle. Someone says, the race director says, oh, I've got some crutches, use them, and off you go. But what actually happened was that, to me, counted as a failure because I didn't get it done. And then we went to Travis's 10 in 10, and that was at 50k as well. And that went very well indeed until day 8, when, if you remember, Pascal and Chantal were involved, and Rose were involved in that dreadful car accident. You remember that?
I do. Yeah, I remember. I wasn't around. Right. I remember seeing and hearing about it.
Pete and I were in the traffic jam behind that accident on the road.
Right.
And what that meant is we got to the start approximately, I think, about 35 to 40 minutes late. And so all of a sudden, whereas I was going nicely in the event, all of a sudden I had to run, for me, a very quick marathon in order to make sure. I think I had to do it in approximately 5:15 on day 8 or something, and it was blowing down there. I think it was at might have been at, I think it was Ramsgate, might have been It was one of those seaside ones.
Yeah.
And it was obvious to me that it was going to be hard. And also I immediately had a flashback to what happened in autumn. I thought, what I don't want is another one that I haven't managed it. And I managed to do, I think it was 5:11 for the marathon. I was thrilled. And what was interesting, I didn't know at the time that the traffic delay was caused by what had happened to our comrades.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I remember getting the 5:11 done, thinking I owe myself a lovely walk for the next 7 kilometers.
Yeah, nice sort of recovery.
And I remember actually very clearly, Charlie was there with Robert, and who were really, because they knew that I was in a bind, and they helped me a lot. They were great, as did Nick and Pete as well. So I mean, I was massively supported on that day. Because people knew that I'd had to start late and whatever. So, and it felt really good after all to get that done. And then when I went through to the 20 and 20, Ruth was great. She was very matter of fact and just said, just stay with it, you'll be okay. And sure enough, she was right. And then for the rest of those 20 and 20, it almost felt like a relief that I'd managed to get over that hurdle. I do remember just going to the same procedure every day. I was staying at the Travelodge there, and I also remember that Leo was there, and he was, again, you know what he's like. He's a tremendous fellow, and he gave me some words. I ran with him for a while, and he was tremendous. But I do remember feeling the real pressure of not finishing literally all the way to the last lap. And I remember I got my best time of the series on day 20 when the pressure was off. But certainly
That's just crazy. Like, we got just to hover on that for a moment. You ran your fastest 50k on the 20th day of doing it in a row, after being a bit unwell during, and it's a mad time. Again, not so, but just 6 hours 11 it took you. And some of those early days, you said you were going over 7, which was really ropey in terms of actually being able to finish it. It just shows you so much of what's possible. And a little aside on, I would obviously come to someone, I could come to somebody like you for a bit of like advice on what's possible, as well as having seen your spreadsheet, but you'd share all this with me in the stories. And so the comparative for you is having Dr. Ruth around, 600 plus marathons, she's been there, done it, and you can just like listen to her and be like, it's like listening to a medical, well, she's a medical professional, bad example, but it's like when a physio tells you, no, you are fine, and suddenly you stop hurting because you've had an actual a validation of it anyway. And whittering, but
it's all these different things, you've all our friends you see different friends in different events, and there's another example of how generous people are, the people we know, and so again, these are the reasons why. On the one hand, you think it's kind of, people think, oh, gee, it's kind of nuts that you've done, or anyone's done, 100 marathons or whatever it may be. But actually, the reason you keep coming back is these little sort of nuggets, isn't it, of the people you meet, and all the little bits and bobs that happen out there are quite valuable, I think.
In so many ways, whether it's for your own technical benefit of hearing or seeing something, I think, or if it's for your own mental well-being, just to know that you belong to something in a group of people who accept you, whereas perhaps, whether it's true for yourself or not, you may have felt slightly different or outsiderish. You come into this little village, I keep calling it, and you feel some sense of belonging, but at the same time you are very different, and you get celebrated almost for being different, whether you're whether you like work in a shop, or whether you're an investment banker or whatever. Like, you're all doing the same thing, you're all respecting each other's backgrounds, and inclusivity is the wrong word, because nobody sort of really cares what you do or where you come from, or how big or small you are. And I love that.
Well, we've also very lucky that with the environments we spend time in together, generally they're very nice places we go to, aren't they? You get to go some absolutely wonderful locations, and,
like Campfire Hoe.
Yeah, I mean, which is a place that you literally that place can cause you post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, you can get beaten to pulp in that place, but in a funny way. That's sort of why you think, I'm just going to go back there and have one little. I mean, for example, I'm signing up to Travis's last 10 in 10 there, because I'm thinking, if he's saying that's the last time he's going to hold it, I've got to go back there for another little tickle.
Just in the sense of shared experience, where you and I probably spent the most time we had together, perhaps talking the most inane set of topics. I can't remember what was said exactly, but I can remember the spirit of it. It was just so jovial, and it was frankly, it was the only way mentally that I was, and perhaps you were going to get through what was effectively 8 hours of solid bucketing rain. It was because after the day before had been so nice, and it was horrific, but we're both there grinning, laughing, soaked literally to the bone. I never thought I would be dry again. And you're offering me like milkshakes out the back of your car. I'm walking around in a bit back. Well, a dry road for you, but so funny.
I saw Noel the other day, Noel McSweeney. As you know, Noel's, he worked at it, and his journey, and he got a lot faster. It's incredible how he did it quite amazing. But we were chatting at Cyclone Park a couple of weeks ago. He was there with Claire, and we were just laughing. He said, of course, he said, you remember, I won the 100 at Samphire. I said, did you? I didn't know that. He said, oh yeah, I definitely did win. I definitely did. He said, you came second. I said, what? There's no way that was me. And of course, no, he said, I always invert the results because the truth of the matter. Because I remember, I said, oh, now I know what you mean. 2019, because I remember it was a battle of the Titans at the end of that. That was the day when the toilets were flying away. You remember?
I remember. I was obviously there.
And we were laughing because, first of all, Noel, I think on the last lap, he smoked me down the railway down to the gate. And I also remember, because we were laughing our head off about that, and on the day, and also the other day as well. And I remember, I remember thinking, as I went over the line, I came in dead last. And I was just laughing my head off because I thought, of all the pain and suffering today, it feels great to come in last because I'm still going to get that buckle. And it felt really good.
And certainly winning on the money's worth index.
Like getting dead last.
Yeah. And I just remember finding that just so bizarre because I've been lapped by you at many events, and I was, and at some point I think I don't know if it was true or not. Someone suggested to me you were almost playing with the cutoffs, like you wanted to be last. So perhaps you secretly wanted to win.
Do you know what? I saw Alice the other day, and she said to me, I saw her at Sapphire at Saturn, and she said to me, she said, oh, I really liked. When we were at 20 and 20, she said you were always very good at just coming in inside the cutoff. I said, believe me, it's not deliberate.
Getting the money's worth.
I getting top value.
Exactly. I know it's better than me. I can never be bothered to go out for the extra laps, which is why I haven't done about 150 ultras or whatever the crazy number you've done is. But I've got to ask, on those hundreds, so we talk about the laughing and joking bit, and there is those wonderful moments and memories, and it fades quickly, but there must be times when, whether it's because you've hurt yourself in auto or because you're hurting yourself by doing the run, but when do you, I'm sure you probably do, go to dark and difficult places, and what is inside you motivating you to carry on? Because a lot of people will have a story or perhaps some other pain in their life that they're either running away from or they're trying to achieve something better. And I kind of want to know what makes you tick when the chips are down and it's so hard. It stops you giving up, because you don't give up, Andrew, and it'd be so useful for people to know what keeps you going.
Well, I think with all I mean, any run that I start up, I always say, I mean, I've only got three sort of things really that are always there. First is, I hope I finish today. So that's never a given. It could be any run. It's like, no run gets taken for granted. So, I hope I finish this today. Second thing is, I always say to myself, one way or another, I'm going to enjoy this. That could mean anything. You might see some friends you haven't seen for ages. You might enjoy the place. It may be that you're running well that day. It could be something out there is going to be enjoyable, and you make sure that you don't just sort of charge past that. Make sure that you, whatever that is, make sure you enjoy that at that moment. And then the third thing is, if you are going after a particular time or whatever, well, hopefully you'll get that. But the order never changes. It's all, the first one is always, it's hopefully we can finish this today. Now you're right. I mean, touch wood, I've managed to finish every run I've started. Touch wood I have. But you said about 100. Yes, I mean, purely because of the distance involved. I mean, and obviously you've got the night to deal with. I think quite a bit of running, particularly the longer stuff, can be quite in my opinion, quite a spiritual experience, particularly if you're tired. And certainly, on those longer runs, on many occasions, like many other runners, you effectively sort of hallucinating, I suppose. But I think it's not just that. I think there's things going on in your body, isn't there, with regard to endorphins and other things. I think that sort of runner's high is a reality. But that and I think the other thing which is right, is that the moment you embark on something like 100, you know, it goes with it. And I think, I mean, for me, I learned a huge amount from, I mean, across the board from Travis and Rachel, particularly on the hundreds. I think that, you know, he's very skillful in a simple way, showing you that, you know, it's inevitable you're going to be, you know, highly tested at this event. Everybody is, and so therefore, it's not just you that's struggling. Everyone else is struggling. That's part of the event, and I think for me, I've always got some comfort from the fact that it's an integral part of the event, and that sort of takes a bit of the tension away, because you know that to get through to that buckle, it's inevitable that you're going to have to go through some pretty difficult experiences, and also in different races it'll be different things. I mean, it could be something physical. I mean, the first one I did at Samfire, you know, I was making a big deal out of it that I'd lost both my little toenails, and you know, I didn't know anything like this. It was green as the grass. And I remember it was in the middle of the night and it was raining. Guess what? It was raining and blowing and all that stuff. And I remember getting down to the gate there, and I was giving obviously the usual, you know what 100-mile runners, we're brilliant at whinging and moaning and stuff. And it was pouring with rain, and my feet were really hurting. And Travis just said to me, well, he said, you know, it's up to you really. If you want to give up, you can, but you want to have a think about it, it's that way. And he just said, off you go. And that's what I needed someone to tell me at that moment. And those little things stick. It's like, well, you know, even if someone's not telling you that, you've kind of got to tell that yourself sometimes. You said, you know, don't stop whinging. This is what's required. So it's up to you. You can either quit or you can shut up and you can get on with it. It's up to you. And you know, don't complicate it. If you want to get out, that's okay. But this is what the event requires. It's the same for everybody. So if you want to just think about it, and you've just, in the meantime, just go that way. And quite a few things with regard to endurance, if you like. In my opinion, I think I've over the years I've learned a lot from a lot of runners. I learned a lot from Travis. I learned a lot from Nick Nicholson, and many other people. So for me, you know, I've benefited from the people that I've run with over the years. But back to the 100, yes, that's a very unusual event. I think people have done hundreds sort of understand that, but if people haven't run 100, it can really expose you as a person, and it for some strange reason, not just physically, but it kind of reveals things that are in your psyche, doesn't it? For some reason,
you're starting to grin saying that, which means, and
yeah,
you've got to be a little bit masochistic, but you almost sort of enjoy and invite that in. You say technically, you know, it's part of the event, but you are almost fetishizing the idea of sufferance.
To me, the 100 is, and these other runs are challenging events, and once you've completed a few of them, you haven't mastered them, but you do have a better understanding of what's required, and you know, if you sort of define, if you will, pain, that can mean all sorts of things, can't it, with regard to what's going on out there. But I think one of the things that I've used as a comparator, and it's nothing to do with running whatsoever, and the details of various things are probably not relevant, but the most pain that I've ever suffered in my life was the combination of my divorce in 2013 and subsequently the lack of or loss of relationship with my son, who's now 21 and I haven't seen for over 5 years, and before that almost 2. So effectively, since he was 13 years old and he's now 21, we've had no relationship. That sorry, sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
No, it's just, sorry, I'm just saying, wow, that's quite huge.
Well, so it took me probably about I'd say it probably took me out one way or another about 4 years to unscramble the spaghetti in relation to that whole period of time. But also with regard to my son, that equally, probably just after that, actually my father passed away in 2017, and just before he passed away, we had some very good discussions about this subject, particularly with regard to his grandson and my son. My son's name is Richard. My dad's name was also Richard, so they had a lot in common. It takes time to settle things, but ultimately get through to a period where you have to respect people's rights to choose, and also you want to be you want to have a relationship with a volunteer, not a conscript, and you have to settle things before you can you can be certain things in life have to be settled, and then you will find that you will be at peace with whatever is whatever has worried you in the past. And sometimes it just takes time to unscramble that. But I remember very clearly the essence of particularly with my son is literally overnight. He was taken to Abu Dhabi, which is not a signatory to the Hague Convention, so any form of court judgments are an irrelevance there. And certainly that period of time when he was there, he was there, I was here, I was going over every month to see him. But certainly the how quickly things changed at that time, and the new form of relationship I had, in 2013, 14, this sort of thousands and thousands of mile travel to go and see him, etc. That was goodness knows, by the way, what it was like for him. At least I was an adult, but the level of pain that I felt, and the amount of time it took me to settle things, to me that remains like an off the scale experience. That's the reference point, and in that context, the running experiences, they've all been, all these running experiences have been, if you will, temporary stroke incidental type levels of discomfort. And for me, that the benchmark is from my sort of comfort or discomfort level, it's nothing to, I find that relatively speaking, the running it's a fairly straightforward task, because it's something that it's only for a period of time. If you want to bail out, you can, and but still, if you are in there and running, you can learn a huge amount about a variety of things if you just stay in it. And back to the old, everyone knows that phrase, one foot in front of the other. Isn't that true with regard to not just to running, but also so many other things in your life? And this is where I think not just the social aspect, but I feel that when I started doing more running, who knows, maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it isn't, but there's an excellent chance that maybe it helped enormously to at least from my point of view, to settle some very, very difficult things that had occurred. And by the way, it remains the case I've got no relationship with my son at all. I always send him birthday and Christmas cards and so on and so forth via a third party who I believe he's still in contact with. certainly, and quite often on these longer events, it's not really to do with me at all. My prime wish is solely that he's happy, healthy, enjoying his life, and is fulfilled. To me, it would be a really nice bonus. First, if we ever see each other again, and second, if we have a good relationship going forward. To me, that would be a bonus rather than something that's that I would in any way try and force on him. To me, this is not about him, about me. It's about his welfare, and I respect the fact, if in the picture of things and what's happened to him, if he feels that it's actually the right thing to do for his own well-being for the future, to restructure his life in the way that he has. First of all, I can fully understand that because of occurrences, and I've been sensitive to the fact that he was moved quickly to Abu Dhabi, and he doesn't have any brothers or sisters. It's very difficult for him. It's a very transient place as well. So to me, it's been very difficult for him to handle. And the second thing is, it's not just I understand that, but also without doubt, I definitely respect his right to choose. And so, in so many ways, I don't see it as about me going forwards. To me, it's about him. And also, as I say, my level of shock and pain, if you will. First of all, that's many years ago, and maybe getting involved in the running scene, in a funny way, I think perhaps it did certainly help me to unscramble the spaghetti and get things where get things to be at peace, which is where they are now.
Well, I would really hope, not just for your sake, that all of those positive things can come true in the future. And I say not just for your sake, because you can be in no doubt of whatever happens, that if your son were to reconnect with you or to say, listen to this, I could imagine he would be incredibly proud of what his dad's achieved, and more than that, the way in which he presents himself and lifts up others and thinks about everyone. Obviously your own son, but puts everyone's feelings, stories, everything before his own. And I think that's just a huge reflection on yourself, as well as all of and like you say, frankly, it doesn't even bear comparison, but the things you accomplish off the back of something that is, relatively speaking, just so off the scale painful. And I can't possibly imagine what that sense of loss is like, but some of my, I think, greatest strengths or callousing of the mind came from seeing my dad suffer from and pass away from cancer, which we've talked about on this many times and I won't need to go into. But that loss is just beyond the pain, it's just beyond anything that we can actually find, however hard 100 or more miles is.
That's right.
You can't compare it. Oh, my foot's hurting. It's not the same as your soul hurting, is it?
No.
But existential level.
Yes, if you, the more you get to know all the people in the running community, you'll find in so many different ways that it's revealed that running the running scene has assisted them live more fulfilling lives than they otherwise would have done, and that's quite uplifting. And by the way, by a long margin, the best, if you will, award running award by far was when, which I laugh my head off even now. I had a very small 100 marathon club presentation. There was only 10 or 15 people there. Travis presented it, and I was so disorganized that I didn't even have a shirt. I had no 100 shirt. It's just I've done it, so that's it. And Ender Cleary said to me, he said, "Oh, don't worry about that." He said, "I've got a spare shirt in my bag. You could just put that one on." And as you know, Ender's a bit smaller than me, so I haven't got that shirt on. It was a bit snug, and but absolutely, it was. I think it was at Sean Wood, but it was a. I remember coming down that final straight it was a absolutely wonderful moment to get that shirt, and I absolutely treasure that moment, because as you know when you've only done about 30 or something, which you still think is absolutely marvelous from one, but it still feels such a long way away, doesn't it? That if you're on 20, 30 or something, you think, gee, it's such a long way to go. And there's no substitute for that moment when all the people that you have been so inspired by are there to give you a clap when they hand you that shirt. You as you know, you can't even believe it's yours. You think, what's this? This isn't mine. This isn't my shirt. And it's a magic moment. And I think people who for example, at Quadzilla this weekend, Flash is getting his. I think Flash. He's the
oh, of course, yeah.
And he's getting his on day 3, which is going to be great to give him a clap. And I just think that whenever people talk to me about the 100, or people are thinking of doing it or whatever, I always say to them, just keep in the back of your head that if you keep cracking away and you get to that day, I said, it'll be the best day in your running. Your running life, to actually, because it's the journey, isn't it, from whatever you're doing, a few little bits and bobs, and then you do your first marathon, and then you do a couple more, and you're still 97 away, and then all of a sudden you get there and you think, oh, and it's such an amazing moment. And just like you, I guess, any of these when you go into London or whatever it may be, I always think it gives you a bit of extra boost if you're wearing that 100 shirt, because I do think that that getting that 100 and all those things you got to do to get there is I remember someone told me make sure you enjoy that journey, and I think that's a really important thing we get a bit blasé, don't we, Robbie? I mean, the bottom line is 26.2 is still quite a long way.
It is, particularly if you don't want to do it, but then when you get good company and stuff. But on what you're saying, I think I always tell people, because I at times felt perhaps I rushed my own, but that day, like you say, it's almost unparalleled, because that back to my village analogy, which I'm going to keep going, that's the day that the mayor of the weird village, or whoever you select, comes to talk about you and present you and talk about your story, and it really all just becomes clear when you've been muddling around all these miles in the rain and whatever. Suddenly you've done this amazing thing, you're part of this amazing club, this family, you really belong somewhere, which for me personally is just so special, as someone who lives alone, and you feel like suddenly you're not an imposter anymore, and you actually have, whether it's Enders or your own shirt to prove it, you have this kind of membership card, and it's like, holy crap, I am enough. And for some people, whether that's belonging or a sense of being good enough.
The other thing that I think is really good about 100 Marathon Club in Britain is simply that it's a really good thing that their auditing standards are very high. So I mean, Brian Darney, the basics of the rules and how it's audited is a very high standard. Brian, as you know, does a very, very good job with regard to checking things. So once again, once you get to the stage when you're awarded that shirt, that you've done things properly. and that's a big thing. It's really important, really important for lots of different reasons. You can imagine it's all the usual ones, isn't it? It's the people that have worn the shirt, who've been awarded it from many years ago, people you know, people that you run with. I think it's very, very important indeed that I think it's a big feature of 100 Club, because as you know, not all clubs around the world, there's lots of 100 clubs around the world, but I think Britain, the way that things are done properly, and this, I think that's a big factor, that it's something really worthwhile to aim at. And once you achieve that, you think, I'm really pleased that I did that, because it's done properly. And that's good.
Absolutely, and it's why you can wear that shirt, and when you go to the AGMs or any of these towns, Rome, whatever, Leicester, you can stand alongside someone or see someone in front of you, in my case, in the distance, wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
And you know you did the same stuff to get it, and the standards are upheld. So that's just so
I think it's
edifying.
And also, I mean, it's just personal choice, of course, but I think it's got lovely colours.
that too, but it comes at a financial and temporal price. Let's just leave it at that. So Andrew, I'm gonna have to let you go soon, but I just you've achieved lots and lots of things, and you've already mentioned how you want to get up to it's 100 road official marathons again, very fastidiously overseen within the club, for the Triple Crown, which is 100 roads, 100 trails, and then 100 ultras. The latter two you've already done. But is there anything else? I like your phrase you used earlier. You sort of stumble into things. Is there anything else, or do you have that one goal and that's what you're focused on next, or is there something on your bucket list that you want to tell us all about?
Well, I mean, I'm going to stick with my sort of stumbling thing, really, to sort of see how things go. Certainly, I really like the foreign away day trips. So, for example, I don't know if you've ever done. Have you ever done Lanzarote? That's a nice one.
But it's on the list. I plan to come, so let me know when you're going.
Yeah, that's actually, I went there for Martin's 1000th. McCoffin and I went over then just December 18, and ran the marathon. It was a lovely event, very nice. And I just for Martin's presentation, which that's the only reason I went there, went back to the car, just picked it up, and the car was gone. It had been towed. So I missed his presentation. It spent me about 4 hours trying to find it. It was eventually the other side of town in a school car park. So it all went very wrong. I did apologise to Martin. So no, I like the foreign ones, and just because it's a new place to go, and I can have a nice holiday together, which is great. I suppose the other thing I'm trying to get is I've got 4 of the 6 for the Abbott Medal. So I've got Berlin, London, New York, and Chicago. And
that's the world majors, therefore, isn't it?
Yeah. I was actually in Tokyo 20. I got in as a charity runner, but that's been foreign runners, Japanese runners can run this year.
Yeah.
But foreign runners in 23. So I'm in 23. Boston, I just don't. I mean, I think my qualifying time is like 3:20 or something. So I mean, probably I'm gonna have to get the money out and buy my way into that one. So yeah, it would be nice to get all 6. But apart from that, I think probably yeah. I mean, I haven't really got any other. I mean, it'd be, one thing I would say is maybe one day, who knows? Maybe one day I can break 24 hours for the 100. Maybe I can.
Oh, brilliant!
I mean, the event. I think that I've learned so much from trying at 100. I find I sort of learn new things every time, really, and so yeah, I think I can do it. Whether I will do it, who knows? But yeah, it would be nice to do that.
I think you can, because I think I can, and that's a goal of mine too. Yeah, so I'll as long as we don't mess around with milkshakes out of the back of your car,
no, get the
we'll go and get that one done together.
Save the milkshakes till afterwards, Robbie. So I suppose that's one thing. But other than that, it's no, I mean it's we're very fortunate, aren't we? Because there's lots of events. There's lots of events you can participate in. You always turn up and see people you haven't seen for a while and have a chat with them, and So I think, more the merrier, and touch wood, and keep the fingers crossed. Hopefully I keep going and don't get an injury that finishes me off. So yeah, let's hope for the best.
Brilliant. It's been so good to speak to you, Andrew, and I really look forward to stumbling around and into something, whatever it is, 50k, and chatting with you very, very soon. All right.
It's very kind of you to invite me. I feel very privileged, because I know, it's not like you do hundreds of these things. I've listened to a lot of your previous shows and been, absolutely perplexed and with great admiration. Some of some of your guests, some of the things I've heard them say have been just amazing. So thank you for asking me on, and thank you also for your company out on those trails, etc. We've always enjoyed each other's company, and they're great moments. So thank you very much.
I promise you it's not ending anytime soon, and while you'd never say it because you're too much of a gentleman, you're soon going to be on that list of people that people listen to, all the people listening to this now, and think, wow, that's just bonkers. Cheers, Andrew, and I'll speak to you soon.
All the best, Robbie.